Hi everyone, Mr. K here again. Second video in a day. Let's see if I can get this up tonight. I want to work on two things. I'm going to try and talk slower because someone yelled at me for that, and I'm going to try not to make disgusting noises like sniffling or coughing into the microphone. So hopefully this goes well. Here is my game. Today we want to talk about tiling. Tiling is a nice way of taking a background and taking just pieces of it and making very nice complicated scenery. And scenery you can even interact with in some way, shape, or form too. It's a little bit tough to describe, so probably just better off showing you. So I have my sprites here. I have, if you remember the maze game, we have our avatar and he's walking left, right, up, and down. We also have a plain old black wall. Okay. In there is also a room, and the room is completely empty right now. There's nothing in it, just my guy right in the middle. And we have also a background. Now, we haven't talked about backgrounds at all, at least not too much, except very basic stuff some of you might have done, which is you treat it like a desktop background. You load it up, you put it in your room, and you're done. Well, there is another thing you can do with backgrounds, and I'm going to open this one up and show you that I have a really weird looking background here. It's got, let me turn this off for now. It's just got stuff. I mean, this is technically just a big picture, but it's got all these just things in it, and they're essentially what they are, tiles. This is a tile set, and a set of objects, not objects, a set of tiles you can place into your game to make complicated or simple scenery. So the idea here is to take these bits and pieces and we can tile them and put them in the room any way we want to. So in order to get that set up, I'm going to check off use as tile set, and I got to make sure I hit my width and height and anything else I might need to mess with. So a lot of tile sets I found online have this as a default. You need to put in 16:16 and then the separation 0. This one's a little bit different, mostly because I blew it up to be bigger than it should be. It's 32 by 32, and there is a little bit of separation between them. And this way you can see there are my tiles perfectly spaced out. Okay, now we're going to go into our room and head over to the Tiles tab. And I gotta make sure that this is the right size of my recording. And sorry about the pen clicks. I'm gonna like throw away my pens when I'm recording, so this way I'm not trying to click them. Alright, my Tiles tab here. I'm gonna select my background and my tiles pop up. And I wish I could make this a little bit bigger. I guess I can. I can do this. Don't have a lot of room. When you guys are working on your monitors, I'm working on small space because of this weird monitor I'm on, but you can make this a little bit bigger, easier to navigate. But anyway, what you can do is you can click on these tiles and you could put them down in the level. And they are essentially just backgrounds. They don't do anything. There's no code behind them. There's no interaction. They're just pieces of background. Now, if you hold down Shift, you can actually drag, so it makes it a little bit less tedious. But this is something that takes a significant amount of work and time. So person doing graphics, I don't envy you. Alright, so that's the basics of tiling, but it gets a little bit more interesting than that, especially when you take in the idea of layers. Now, they start you off with a tile layer, and that tile layer is 1 million. I want to add a new one, and this one's just going to be 900,000, I guess. We'll use that. The idea here with layers and depth in GameMaker is that the bigger the number, the further back it is as far as a layer goes. So if 1 million was the layer I was using before, 1,000,001 would be behind that, and 1,000,002 would be behind that. I chose a smaller number, 900,000, so I could put stuff on top of this layer. So I could make myself, where'd they go? Dirt paths. And if you notice, it's just on top of it, so you can still see the grass somewhat, and it doesn't just look like, you know, nothing. You can still see the grass bleeding through a bit. And you can make a pool. You can get really creative with it. And a lot of these tile sets have a lot of options that you can play with, but this is basically what the idea is. You're painting your scenery with given pieces to begin with. Okay, so that's the basics of tiling. Now let's get into something a little bit more fun. They also have these things like objects in here as well. So you got dressers and chairs and I don't know what that is. But if I was to run my game, this would just act like any other piece of background, which means I can run over it. Well, if you remember from before, I have an object here. And this object, this object wall, is set to be invisible. So if I go to my room and go to objects and select my wall and put it over top and run my game, my work computer is slow. There we go, move that up. I can walk around, and now when I bump into this, well, it's just like I'm walking into a wall. It acts like a solid object that I cannot pass through, despite the fact that I didn't really make a chair object or a dresser object or whatever it may be. All I did was put down a background and I put down a block that happens to be invisible. Okay, that's the really neat stuff that you can do with tiles, and you can even take it a little bit one step further. That if I go back here, and I am not going to find it because this thing is huge. What I'm looking for are something tall. There they are. Columns are perfect. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my 900,000 layer and put that down. And I'm going to add a new layer. This one is going to be negative 100. The reason for negative 100 is because my player and actually all objects default at a layer of 0. This one I want to be in front of my player, and you might be able to guess why. But let me just show you. So let me put the rest of my column down, go back to my object, put it here, run it, and now I have, well, I can't walk through the pedestal, but I can walk behind it. And you can go from here and you can do all sorts of crazy interesting things. This doesn't work just for top down, of course, this works for 2D stuff as well, but it will allow you to add a lot more detail in your game without having to program, or not program, set up objects and sprites for every single bit. This tile set I got for free. It's from, I want to say, Kenny's Tile Sets. If I remember, I'll put a link to the website in the description. But it's also in the video game assets folder, along with a bunch of other stuff that I've been finding. But tile sets, you just Google tile sets and you get a bunch that you can use for your project. Remember that other people are making these things, so if you decide to go publish your game, you want to double check your copyrights, and you should probably be making your own. But for what we're doing, which is just educational wise, find some tile sets, try it out, and let me know what you think. That's it, and bye.